Stats in Destiny 2 still suck. Now that I've gotten the clickbaiting title out of the way, I want to talk about the clear discrepancy among the three classes that we're seeing at the moment. This has become a product of the recent stat changes, as both Titans and Hunters are falling way behind the power that Warlocks provide. Now, this is not to say Titans and Hunters are weak and not viable, but it's becoming increasingly clear which class is the most powerful, especially if the Day 1 dungeon race was any indication. A post I'll leave in the description, and maybe post on screen by cbro, shows that nearly double the amount of Warlocks cleared the Equilibrium dungeon compared to the next class, which was Titan, with only about 3,400 Titans completing the contest dungeon, and not even 1,000 Hunters completing the dungeon on contest mode. Now, this clear discrepancy all started when Bungie decided to give Warlocks the ability to have buddy builds work with the grenade stat and grenade-based fragments. They made it to where a single class benefits from a stat more than the others in a very extreme way. Now, I'm not all calling for a nerf to these builds because the power fantasy is incredibly fun, and this is not inherently a Warlock issue, but it's a stats issue that leaves Hunters and Titans behind in the dust as they don't have any additional benefits for building into specific stats. This very much reminds me of pre-Edge of Fate, before when we had stats that were specific to certain classes, where Titans had resilience, Warlocks had recovery, and Hunters had mobility, each stat benefiting their class ability more than if you were to use that stat on another class. Now, obviously, this did not transpire the way I'm alluding to. Warlocks and Hunters still use resilience because it was just the best stat all around, but the concept was still there. A specific stat benefited one class more than the others. And I feel like we're seeing a repeat of that currently, with Warlocks being the only one seeing a benefit from a specific stat. A 200 grenade stat will always be better on Warlocks than it is on a Titan or a Hunter, solely because of how their kits function. So I'm calling for some buffs to other stats to allow Titans and Hunters, and yes, even Warlocks, to have more special interactions with different stats besides bigger number make me do bigger damage, which is not at all that interesting. Starting off, I want to talk about the class stat, which is what I believe to be by far the worst stat in the game, as all it really does between 100 and 200 stats is grant a pretty uninteresting overshield, where in its place we can add special interactions to existing gameplay mechanics. Some examples include Acrobat's Dodge, Vanishing Step, or say Mask of Athrys, all dodge-related abilities on Hunter that grant you something for a period of time. What if Radiant from Acrobat's Dodge had an increased duration based on your class stat? What if you could be invisible longer without the need of Echo of Persistence or Graviton Forfeit? What if the damage boost from Athrys lasted longer, all based on your class stat? This is just Hunters too. What if for Warlocks the duration of all rifts lasted longer based on your class stat, being a buff to various different exotics like Vesper of Radius or Secant Filaments? Or maybe for Titan, the range of Dranger's Lash was further, or the bolt charge gain from Storm's Keep was given faster, all without the need of a fragment slot. This is just one stat that many different interactions can play off of, instead of an overshield that gets stripped in half a second. Next, I want to mention the health stat. This stat in PvE is essentially useless, as the health from orb pickups is never better than the various different ways we have to heal in this game, and flinch resistance. In PvE, do I really need to explain why that isn't needed? Some potential interactions I'd like to see are things like Lorelei Splendor Helm giving Restoration X2 again at higher health stats, or maybe the cure for picking up your throwing hammer being much more. Exotics like Worm Husk Crown, which have essentially been useless in PvE for the better half of its life, could see a larger health bump after dodging. Icefall Mantles granting more health whenever you pick up a stack of Frost Armor, or an exotic like Phoenix Cradle maybe granting damage resist while you're in a sunspot, based on your health stat. An exotic like Karnstein Armlets could also see a greater restoration duration, based on your health stat. I'd love to see the health stat feel much less specific to PvP, as flinch resistance and health on orb pickup just is not that interesting, and it makes the stat almost never worth investing in PvE. The next stat I want to mention is the super stat. Now, this section may be a bit controversial, but I still want to put these ideas out there because bigger number making me do bigger damage is not at all that interesting. So what I propose is, what if we brought back the ability to receive a full super again from super base exotics at higher super stats? What if Shards of Galanor, Celestial Nighthawk, Orpheus Riggs, Skull of Dire Kara, Phoenix Protocol, or Ursa Furiosa were no longer capped at 50% super gains, and by investing into the super stat, you can chain supers more effectively and more often if you are skilled enough in using them. Other super base exotics like Pyrogale Gauntlets or Helmless 814 can have special interactions also at higher super stats, maybe allowing Pyrogale to travel further and deal more damage in a greater radius, or Weapons of Light now lasts longer as you have it. An exotic like Geomax Stabilizer, what if the extended duration was longer based on your super stat? What if Apotheosis Veil's effect also lasted longer? The super stat is by no means weak, and is definitely necessary currently in endgame content, but it's still incredibly boring as, again, bigger number doing bigger damage is not at all interesting, and I definitely feel like we could see some reverts on exotics that had these changes almost a decade ago. Seriously, these exotics had their super energy capped back when we still had subclass blocks in the game. Maybe it's something worth revisiting. The final stat I want to mention is the weapon stat. It's no secret that at the moment primary weapons are lacking behind, and I feel like the easiest solution is just to make the weapon stat affect primaries, special, and heavy weapons differently. Currently at 100 weapon stats, all three see the exact same benefit of a 15% increase and a 10% reload speed increase. This right here needs to change in order to affect these weapon types differently. Heavy weapons should remain at 15%. Special weapons could see a buff to maybe 25%. But most importantly, primaries need to scale better with the weapon stat. A potential 50% damage increase and 25% reload speed increase at max 200 weapon stats. And even then, I don't know if that is really enough, which is why I also propose some changes to weapon perks based on your weapon stat. Things like burning ambitions or jolting feedback could apply sooner. Perks with durations could see them extended based on your weapon stat. Rampage, one of the oldest perks in the game, could see its duration doubled at 200 weapon stats. This can also be applied to many different exotics as well. What if Wither Horde lasted longer in the field based on your weapon stat? What if Terra filled up its meter faster based on your weapon stat? What if Divinity gained its pre-nerf damage buff? Maybe not that last one, but you get my point. The sky is the limit with these new stat systems we have in place, and at the moment it really feels like only warlocks are taking the maximum benefit from them, as they have gained many different ways for the grenade stat to benefit them. Obviously, what I'm proposing in this video may be insane or will fundamentally break the game somehow, but I think the concept of stats being more than just incremental increases is something that should definitely be explored, as it will create a more interesting build crafting experience, allowing each stat to truly shine outside of big number do big damage. So, let me know what you think, whether you agree or disagree, or if there's any cool interactions you may have thought of, please share it in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching, and have a nice day.